Hello, my name is Daryl Wildberg, and as you can see by my little lapel pin right there, I'm a practicing Jehovah's Witness. In good standing, otherwise I wouldn't be making these videos. This video is not approved by the Watchtower Bible Tract Society of Pennsylvania. It's not approved by the governing body labeled the Faithful Slave, Matthew 24, 45 through 47, by Jesus Christ. And it's not approved by any local body of elders. I don't work for those folks. I work for Jesus Christ, and he works for Jehovah God. And you can put two and two together. I work for Jehovah God, but Jesus Christ is the foreman. He's the boss. Jehovah God made him boss. So that's that issue. Who or what is pictured by Leviathan of Isaiah 27:1? Please turn with me there in your Bibles, and it doesn't matter which copy of the Bible you have. I use the New World Translation of the Holy Scriptures because it is the most accurate Bible in print. And that's Isaiah chapter 27 and verse 1. In that day, Jehovah, with his harsh and great strong word, will turn his attention to Leviathan, the gliding serpent. To Leviathan, the twisting serpent. And he will kill the monster that is in the sea. You see, Isaiah 27:1 reads in part, in the day that Jehovah, with his hard and great and strong sword, will turn his attention to Leviathan. Now, as we read that, we understand this prophecy to apply to both Satan the devil and his wicked organization on earth completely. The Watchtower of October 15, 1985 explained that Isaiah chapter 27 is a restoration prophecy. Its initial fulfillment involved the ancient nation of Israel, which would be restored to its homeland after 70 years of captivity in Babylon. Though most of the exiles were from Babylon, some would return from Egypt and the territory of Assyria. And his people should be freed. So such nations could not stop him through independent or combined efforts. You see, let me give you an example. Some of you apostates tried to stop me in these videos. You see, my videos are from Jehovah God. You cannot stop them. No weapon formed will be successful. See, that's prophecy in the Bible. You can't stop Jehovah. Nobody can stop Jehovah. Hitler tried to stop Jehovah. Stalin tried to stop. Gorbachev tried to stop Jehovah. Nikita Khrushchev tried to stop Jehovah. Putin is now trying to stop Jehovah in Russia. You can't do that. It's going to be unsuccessful. We still grow in numbers. You cannot stop Jehovah. You apostates should have known that before you even tried. But you're stupid idiots. Some of you. And you don't get that. What did you do? Well, first of all, you went to YouTube. And that worked for a moment. You put a damper on my videos. YouTube actually took my videos off. But then an appeal went through and they placed them back on. See, Jehovah did that. Motivated them. And then what did you do? Well, you went and impersonated Jehovah's Witnesses and you called the branch. That Daryl Wallberg is making videos and I am a sister in good standing. And I want the videos off YouTube. Look. You even were successful to the branch. Oh yeah, they actually thought you were sisters. But you see, I knew you weren't, and you morons put it in writing that you were going to call the branch. And that was your first mistake, because see, I copied those and sent them to the branch. Yeah. I copied where you said, I'm going to call the branch and report him. And then what else did you do? Well, then you impersonated, well, you didn't impersonate, but then you went and crashed carts and you made phone calls to congregations and impersonated Jehovah's Witnesses. The Smurf idiot did that. Yeah. Oh, you guys are a real scare pairs. You travel in pairs. Nighttime theater or nightmare theater. Yeah, that moron and the jerk boy. Yeah. Homosexuals. They teamed up and still couldn't. Now, when you look at these people and these nations that tried to stop Jehovah and his people, they might have seemed to humans to be powerful and wily, like an ancient Leviathan, probably a crocodile. Yet Jehovah would succeed in behalf of ancient Israel, just like he succeeded in my behalf today. Job 41, 1-34. What, though, would Leviathan picture in a larger fulfillment of Isaiah's chapter 27? Understandably, Satan, the devil, comes to mind. For Revelation 12:9 describes him as the great dragon, the original serpent. He has long been an enemy of God and his people. Furthermore, the scriptures make plain that Satan will meet his end. God has set a day to exercise his power through his Son to eliminate the devil, destroy him completely, so that dragon or serpent will be cut down as with a great and strong sword. Hebrews 2:14, Revelation 21, 1-3, and verse 10. Recall, though, that the immediate enemies facing ancient Israel were visible national opposers, such as you are to me. They were Egypt, Assyria, and Babylon. Similarly, today, God's Christian servants worldwide are confronted by tangible opposers amid the restless sea of mankind alienated from God. Well, you are them, but the Russians, the Muslims, they don't like Jehovah's Witnesses. Revelation 17:1 and 15. Satan controls a worldwide organization that he uses to obstruct those who observe the commandments. He controls you, Satan. You work for Satan. When you complained about me, you were Satan's tools. See, they obstruct those just like you want to obstruct who observe the commandments of God and have the work of bearing witness to Jesus. Revelation 12:17. The devil-dominated organization has proved to be sly and fierce like a Leviathan. Now, think about that for a moment. Sly and fierce. Weren't you being sly there, Marcia the hooligan, when you called the range? Or Amber the sorceress, the thing? Weren't you guys being sly and devious? I'm a Jehovah's Witness. And I've watched YouTube, and I hate those videos that Daryl Weilberg is making. Of course, the branch don't look at my videos, so they didn't know. So yeah, they called my Kingdom Hall, told the brothers there to tell me to take the videos down. And when the brothers talked to me, I told them I don't work for you, and the videos ain't coming down. And then I provided them with the proof of who made the calls. See, you admitted it in the comments part, and I just copied that down of the videos that you people make. That's how stupid you are. You're ignorant. Early in this century, the Leviathan lost its control over spiritual Israel, namely the anointed Christian witnesses of Jehovah. You have no control over me. And it will fully be cut down when, accompanied by angelic warriors, Jesus rides forth with a sharp long sword that he may strike the nations with it, and you, if you do not return to Jehovah, you're going to be struck. You are going to be violently destroyed if you do not return to Jehovah God. Revelation 19:11-16. So even though in one respect Satan can be spoken of as a Leviathan in Isaiah 27:1, that prophecy includes more than the original serpent. It focuses particularly on the visible earthly organization dominated by him, which you are now a part of, because you see two roads. One leads with Satan, bye-bye. The other, hello, leads to Jesus Christ and life forever. There's only two roads. You're not on the road to life. You're on the road to death and destruction. The watchtower mentioned above would point readers to the time when the present wicked system over which Satan the devil has dominated as its God will not exist. Jehovah will have turned his attention to the symbolic Leviathan, which you're a part of, the gliding crooked serpent that is in the midst of the sea of humanity, and he, the nations, and even unions of nations, will be gone. You need to return to Jehovah. It's right there. www.jw.org. Publications. Click on it. Yeah. Books and brochures. Scroll down. Click on that. Scroll down. Return to Jehovah. Read it. Next question. Is there a distinction between creation and creationism? Yes, there is. The word creation, appearing some 18 times in the New World Translation of the Holy Scriptures, properly refers to Jehovah's creative activity. Romans 1:20. Please turn with me there in your Bibles. And you know, we're going to read a little more. We're going to read to Romans 1:24. That's Romans, starting chapter 1. We're going to read from 1:20, chapter 1, verse 20, to 23. I'm sorry. And it reads, "For his, God's, invisible qualities are clearly seen from the world's creation onward, because they are perceived by the things made. Even his eternal power and Godship, for his invisible qualities are clearly seen." "For although they knew God, they did not glorify him as God, nor did they thank him, but they became empty-headed in their reasonings, and their senseless hearts became darkened." Here he's talking to the evolutionist. "Although claiming they were wise, they became foolish, and turned the glory of incorruptible God into something like the image of corruptible man and birds and four-footed creatures." Does not evolution say that we were all those things before we became human? And we crawled out of some soup? Where's the soup? So you see, God knew that idiots, evolutionists, were going to come out of the woodwork. Now, that term creationism is not found in the Bible. Webster's Third New International Dictionary, 1971, defines creation as the act of creating, and creationism as the doctrine or theory of creation. The same dictionary defines ism as a distinctive doctrine, cause, system, or theory, often used disparagingly. In these 1980s, creationism has become a true ism because of its adoption by the political pressure groups such as the moral majority. It is no longer a neutral term, but embodies extreme fundamentalist views of the Bible, such as the view that God created the earth and everything upon it in 6 days of 24 hours each. That's just stupid. There are now more than 350 books in circulation setting out such creationism dogma. Jehovah's Witnesses reject the unreasonable theories of creationism in favor of what the Bible really teaches about creation. For a more complete answer to the above question, you can see the article entitled "Evolution, Creation, or Creationism, Which Do You Believe?" on pages 12 through 15 of our companion magazine, Awake, dated March 22nd, 1983. How can a Christian distinguish between bribery, condemned in the Bible, third question, and given a tip or gift for a service rendered. We need to appreciate that practices differ from area to area. Ways that are accepted in some lands would be offensive and improper elsewhere. For example, people in one country may bow before an official, but in another land that would be viewed as idolatry. Similarly, a tipping practice accepted in one land might be shocking or illegal in another. While bearing such differences in mind, all Christians should apply God's counsel against bribery. What is bribery, and what does the Bible say about it? The World Book Encyclopedia explains bribery means giving or offering something of value to a person in a position of trust, who in return violates his or her duty or the law in order to benefit the giver. Turn a blind eye, so to speak. Thus, it is bribery to give money or a gift to a judge to influence his decision and pervert justice. It is also bribery to offer money so as to circumvent the law, such as asking a building or automobile inspector to ignore a violation. God condemns bribery, telling Israelite judges, "You must not pervert judgment. You must not be partial or accept a bribe, for the bribe blinds the eyes of wise ones and distorts the words of righteous ones." Deuteronomy 6:19. Jehovah himself sets the standard, for with him there is no unrighteousness or partiality or taking of a bribe. The same can be said about Jesus Christ, his Son. 2 Chronicles 19:7. Christians desiring God's approval refuse to resort to bribery. Acts 24:26. While men worldwide denounce and have laws against bribery, many people face the problem reflected in the above question. They know that it takes a gift or tip to get minor officials in their land to do their job, or to do it fairly. For instance, the Wall Street Journal said about a land rife with inflation. To obtain the extra cash needed to get by, government workers resort to petty corruption. You have to pay them to hand you any kind of a form, says the head of a state agency. Meanwhile, immigration officials badger bewildered foreign tourists at the international airport for $20 to stamp their passports so the travelers don't miss their planes. That happens. I'm not saying it happens all the time, but it has happened. Recently, U.S. News and World Report commented on bureaucratic delays and resulting payoffs that are common around the entire world. For instance, it's said that an Indian these days must slip money to an official on the side to enroll a child in school, to gain admittance to a hospital, even to secure reservations on a train. Other illustrations of this include: a tradesman needs a permit before he can work. He pays the official fee at the government office, yet everyone knows that without a gift his papers will be kept on the bottom of the pile. While he is not asking to be put ahead of the others, if he gives the normal tip, his paper will be properly handled. In a certain land, people know that traffic officers get low pay and are expected to add to it with gifts for refreshments. An officer stops a driver and says that the law was broken, so the man must pay a fine. When the driver protested he broke no law, the officer warns that if the matter goes to court, he will charge the man also with assaulting an officer. Thus, many simply pay the fine, viewing it as an unofficial taxation. Others refuse, being willing to take the consequences. A municipality is supposed to provide garbage collection, but it is normal for a householder to give the garbage man a gift. If someone does not, his trash is forgotten, and he is liable to be fined for unsanitary conditions. Such problems show that many in authority use their government posts for unjust profit, Ecclesiastes 8:9. Christians long for God's righteous new system, but until then, they must cope with the present system. This may mean recognizing local situations where public servants expect gifts for performing their job, not altering their jobs. Even in lands where such is normal, many of Jehovah's Witnesses who deal with inspectors and customs officials have declined to give tips to obtain what the law entitles them to. Because they are known for this stand, they receive treatment that most people get only through a payment, Proverbs 10:9. However, each Christian must be guided by his Bible-educated conscience according to the local situation. In other words, your conscience must tell you whether or not you have to give the guy at the permit downtown, the guy who issues permits for construction, whether or not you want to give him a permit to not to alter his outcome, but to just give you the permit. Love for neighbor is a factor to consider also. Matthew 22:39. It would be unloving to use a gift to get preferred treatment, such as being moved to the head of the line. Now that would be wrong, bypassing those who are waiting. Jesus counseled us to treat others as we want to be treated, Matthew 7:12. Some Christians may feel that as their turn in line comes, they can comply with the practice of the land to give a gift, to get an official to do what his job requires. Of course, in lands where such gifts are not customary, or they are shocking to public sensibilities, the loving Christian will act in a way that does not stumble others. 1 Corinthians 10:31-33. Another factor is obedience to the law. Jesus urged, pay back Caesar's things to Caesar, but God's things to God. Now, through the ages, many have left off that second part. See, they just go, like when the government tells you that you have to go in the army, and you have to go overseas and kill people for the government. Really? See, they go, well, yeah, you have to pay back Caesar's things to Caesar. That's what Jesus Christ said. Pay back Caesar things to Caesar. So if Caesar asks for the tax, pay the tax. If Caesar asks you to go in the government and the army, go in the army. No, that's not what the scripture says. Read it again. You left out part of that scripture, the most important part of it. Pay back Caesar's things to Caesar, but God's things to God. So, in retrospect, if Caesar's requirement contradicts what God tells us, we have to obey God as ruler rather than Caesar. A good example of that is when Jesus told Peter, put your sword in its sheath. If you live by the sword, you will die by the sword. Right there, Jesus is telling the people not to go in the army. So if the government comes up and says you have to go in the army, who are you going to obey? Jesus, who represents God, or the government, who represents Caesar? It is one thing if a Christian who has not broken the law is expected to tip a government employee or other official. But what if a Christian actually had violated the law? In that case, how could he in good conscience offer a bribe to induce an officer to ignore the violation? He cannot do that. The Apostle Paul wrote that we should fear governmental superior authorities who are empowered to express wrath upon the one practicing what is bad. Romans 13:3-4. Paul's own position was, if he did wrong, he would accept the appropriate punishment. You're driving down the road, and you know you're speeding, and all of a sudden the cops come and pull you over. Why argue with the cop that you weren't speeding? And you can't offer him a bribe, because if you do that, then you're violating God's law. Just look at the cop and go, officer, I was speeding, please give me the ticket. Give me your license. Yeah, you're going to have to adjust paying for it later on, but you know what? It's the righteous thing to do. You were speeding. Thus, a Christian who violated a traffic law might have to pay a fine or fee as directed by an officer or judge. Paul also said that governments are ministers to you for your good. Despite the greed of some officials, governments do provide services for the public good. Policemen, firemen, ambulance services, inspection. You hire somebody to build your home, you want the proper inspection services done. The government provides that. Your taxes pay for it. For instance, officials inspect automobiles as to their roadworthiness, and they examine whether buildings are in compliance with fire codes. Therefore, if a Christian felt that within the law he could tip an official who expected a service fee, it is evident that this is quite different from bribing an inspector to ignore violations of the law. Let's say an inspector comes out and says, examines your car, and he finds that your car is running okay, and he grants you a pass. Could you tip him $5? Hey, go buy a burger. Sure you could. Now he might not want to accept it, but he can't charge you for bribery because he's already issued. See? In whatever land one might live, Christians should exercise practical wisdom in dealing with local situations. God's servants should remember that those who will be guests in God's tent and reside in His holy mountain cannot resort to bribery of any kind to get out of paying for a fine or a fee. Psalm 15:1 and verse 5. With regard to giving tips, to receive rightfully due services or to avoid unfair treatment by officials, a Christian must decide what his conscience permits and bear responsibility for any resulting complications. He certainly should pursue a course that leaves him with a good conscience personally and that does not sully the good name of Christianity or Jehovah or stumble observers. Elders in the Christian congregation are responsible to handle violations of divine law such as stealing, murder, or immorality. But God did not require congregation elders to enforce Caesar's laws and codes. Hence, Paul did not feel compelled to turn over to Roman authorities Onesimus, who was a fugitive under Roman law. Philemon 10:15, verses 10 and 15. Of course, if someone flagrantly violates secular law, gaining the reputation of being a lawbreaker, he would not be a good example and might even be disfellowshipped. So if lawbreaking was involved in causing another's death, blood guilt requiring congregation investigation might result. Yeah. So it's very simple. And this is why we have the two-witness law in the congregations today. And yeah, you know what? Guess what, you apostates? The two-witness law also applies to criminal procedures in America. I don't know about other lands. In some lands it does, in others it might not. But in America, the United States of America, the two-witness law applies to criminal courts. You cannot get a conviction with one witness in any court of law in the United States. It's not going to happen. Not with just one witness. Now, what's the terminology of witness? It does not have to be a human being. What? Yeah, that's not what the two-witness law means. Many of you are ignorant and you don't understand what that two-witness law means. Forensic science can be the second witness. A doctor can be a second witness. It doesn't have to be a person. If a child comes up in a kingdom hall and tells the elders, Brother so-and-so molested me, the brothers can't do anything. Nor should they. Now, the brothers, when the parents of the child come up, they tell the parents, if you want, you can go start an investigation with the police. All we have is the child's statement. We're not policemen. If you want, go to the police will investigate. If the police find that your child was molested, that's a second witness. The doctor might be a third witness, the examination. See? Forensics. They even had forensics back in the ancient biblical times. Sure, if a guy is accused of murdering a guy and they go out to the body and they find the guy's axe in his hand with blood all over him, that's forensics. It's obvious that that guy killed him. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that stuff out. They had forensics back then. Woman screams rape. She comes up to her brothers and says, I was raped, tears in her eyes. Her clothes are all ripped. She's got scratches all over her face, bruises on her face. Guy comes out, doing up his pants. Hey, guess what? That's forensics. She was raped. But they have to have that second witness. And that second witness can be many, many different things. So remember this the next time you fault the Jehovah's Witnesses for requiring a second witness before they can take action, before the elders can take action. It's the same in the criminal courts. There isn't a criminal court in this country that will take the word of one child or one witness. There has to be corroborating evidence. Corroborating evidence can be another witness. It can be a human, or it can be evidence. Yeah. Simple deductions. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this stuff out. You apostates, stop with the blaming the Jehovah's Witnesses for the child molestations. It happens. And it's a sad and terrible state of affairs. For instance, to Candace Conti. I don't believe she was molested. And you can't prove it. Look at my videos. Thanks for watching this video and have a great day.